record reflect the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Mr. Griffin, you may call your next witness. Oh, Dahlia, sorry. Sorry.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, this you do under the penalty of perjury?
Mr. Gooch, good morning. Do you mind taking your mask off just while you testify?
No, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Thanks, Judge.
See.
Good afternoon, or I guess it's still morning. Good morning. Could you tell us your full name, please?
My full legal name is James A. Gooch.
Go by Jim?
Oh, yes, sir.
We call you Jim, that okay?
It'll be fine.
We're going to be talking to the jury, so direct your comments toward them so that they can clearly hear you. And let me ask you just a series of just some background questions first, all right? So first and foremost, are you related to Mark Gooch?
It is, sir. He is our son.
Right here.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about you first, and then we'll get to the family. How old a man are you, sir?
I'm 50. Excuse me. I'm 59.
And are you married, sir?
Yes, sir.
And what's your wife's name?
My wife's name is Anita.
In the back of the courtroom?
He's in the back in the corner.
Thank you. Where's home, sir?
We live in Wisconsin.
How long has Wisconsin been home base?
We've lived in Wisconsin since 2002.
Before then?
We lived in North Carolina,
How long did you live in North Carolina?
10 or 15 years.
You have dress that appears similar to some that we've seen in the courtroom during the course of this trial. Is that associated with any background or religion?
We are part of the Mennonite church and have been attending since 1990.
Were you, so that would tell me that you would not have been born into the church.
No, sir. We were not from Christian background.
In, say, 1990, so tell me a little bit about the structure of your family. How many children do you have?
We have 7 children.
Where does Mark fit in within the siblings?
He is the youngest.
And so you would have joined the church before Mark was born?
Correct.
Before any of the kids were born?
No, my oldest daughter was approximately 6 years old.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. So when you joined the church, was that before you moved to Gleason?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are there Mennonite churches situated throughout the United States?
In most areas, there would be conservative Mennonite churches.
We heard a little discussion about the different aspects of the Mennonite religion. Could you share a little bit about the different ranges when we talk about conservatism? Are there different sort of factions and branches of the church?
Yes, sir. The biggest difference is the particular groups that we would fellowship with are ones that believe in, or biblicists, believe in the truth of the Scripture and try to follow it as closely as possible.
All right. As opposed to?
For example, the conference churches have left off a lot of traditional values, such as the head covering.
So what is it about the dress that is unique or important to the Mennonite culture?
Well, the Scripture says that we are to be modestly apparelled, and we have particularly taken a style that covers the body and is not a flashy type style.
All right. We've also heard some talk about technology and how Mennonite culture views that. Can you comment on that at all?
It will vary from church to church, but primarily your conservative churches are looking at use of technology that does not compromise biblical values. So this is why television is not in their homes.
Because of the potential to
well, the filth it brings in.
all right. Talk to me a little bit about, we've also had some discussion about the Mennonite culture when it comes to violence or aggressiveness or self-defense even. Can you talk at all about those topics?
It's very clearly. We know from even Jesus said, he said, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight that I might deliver to the Jews. And traditionally, we have held the view of nonviolence, non-participation in things like the police force where violence and force would be needed.
Now, what about if somebody was needed to defend themselves against an aggressor? What would be the Mennonite response tradition?
It will vary a little bit, but we would feel is to use, to resist to the point of killing an aggressor. And that person, if they're not saved and ready to meet their maker, we've condemned them to hell. And that, it's better my life to be sacrificed and be ready to meet my maker than to have someone die and be condemned to hell at my hands.
Short answer is self-defense to the extreme would not be something that would be...
Correct. Correct.
All right. Tell me a little bit about how your family was raised within the Mennonite culture, how you raised your family. Tell me about schooling, tell me about church, tell me about how that's involved in your lifestyle.
The school is typically in most Mennonite churches, there is a school associated with that we highly support. Their teachers are generally or within our congregation or similar congregations. So all the values that was expressed in our church, in our homes, in our school are all the same.
All right. As you've just sort of articulated to me, some of those include what you just discussed.
Right.
So Mennonite schooling, does it have a range? Is it K through blank? What is it generally?
It'll vary from state to state. Wisconsin is 1st to 8th, and some states require 8th, 16, or 10th grade. So whatever the state requires.
Tell us about what educational background your children got in Gleason. Been through 8th grade or what?
Through 8th grade.
That is typical of the Mennonite culture?
It depends on what state. But in Wisconsin, pretty much they're educating through the 8th grade.
I want to specifically focus on Mark Gooch and ask, is that his educational pattern?
Yes.
Does he get at some point, does he secure a GED? Does he do any high school through the public system?
Well, he did get his GED. Typically, our school students are generally 3 to 4 years ahead of their grade, anticipated grade level. So they're basically at high school level by the time they graduate the 8th grade.
Now, I want to go back and just focus on two things. You talked about the use of force, and you talked about law enforcement and maybe participation in the military. So let me ask you about that. So generally speaking, would a Mennonite participate in the military in the United States?
No.
All right. And would that fall under a religious objection, a conscientious objector situation? How does that work?
It would be conscientious objector.
You mentioned law enforcement. Generally, they would not participate in that because of the need for force.
Correct.
Now, in addition to the educational aspect of your Mennonite raising of your children, tell me a little bit about church. Is church frequent, more than once a week? Tell me how that rolls.
It will vary from church to church. In Gleason, we generally had 2 services on Sunday and a midweek service. So 3 services a week.
Heard a little bit about whether there might be revivals or some things on Saturdays and that kind of stuff. Is that?
Yes, sir. That was fairly frequent. We would generally, once every quarter to every 6 months, would have weekend meetings or revival meetings, generally from Friday through Sunday.
I want to talk to you about Mark's specific relationship with the church. I understand that you can attend church, but not necessarily be baptized into the church.
Correct. Correct.
Explain that for me.
Basically, we do not practice infant baptism. It's only on a confession of faith would someone be baptized in the church.
Okay, so just because you get born doesn't mean you get baptized into
Correct.
Mr. Gooch, I'm sorry, wait till Mr. Griffin finishes his question, okay? Before you answer. So just wait till he finishes getting the whole question out. I'm sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
It's hard to know when I'm going to stop, so it's okay. So don't get baptized in as a result of birth.
Correct.
So does one have to sign up and then get baptized by their own independent decision?
They would make an independent decision to follow the Lord. And then at such time, they would go through instruction to make sure their conversion was genuine and they would be baptized.
Is there an age where baptism is considered to be appropriate?
Generally, you're looking at age 12 up.
Now, and again, I'll just specifically focus on your son, Mark. Did Mark get baptized into the church?
Never.
Did Mark attend the church with the family through his youth?
Mark attended church with the family until we moved
And when did you move?
in 2017
All right. And from where, you moved from Gleason?
to Aconto.
Okay, so I don't know where that is. Help us out.
Gleason is in north central Wisconsin. We moved to northeastern Wisconsin.
Did you stay, did that cause a change in your Mennonite relationship?
No, we changed. We're in a similar church, but it's not quite the same conference.
Right. So at that point, Mark stopped participating.
Yes.
Did Mark stop participating because he had a philosophical difference, or can you tell us from your perspective why he stopped? If you know.
To the best of my knowledge, he wasn't of a converted heart. And at that point, I don't think he felt the need for it.
Much time after, well, let me go back for a second. When you were living in Gleason, is that a metro urban area or is that a rural area?
It doesn't get much more rural than Gleason.
All right. So we got a couple of gas stations and something on the corner, or help us out a little bit.
Well, from where I lived, it was 25 miles to town. Gleason consisted of a gas station and a grocery store and a bar, and that was about it.
All right. Tell us what kind of lifestyle you had. What kind of work were you involved in as a family?
I worked as a pharmacist and still do, and we also dairy farmed. I was in the process of doing both, trying to pay off the debt on the farm, and my children were highly involved in the farm work, both milking cows and cropping.
So give us how many cows you got?
We had approximately 50 to 60 milk cows and a total of about 100 cows.
So the kids were involved in helping you with that.
I couldn't have done it without them.
Right. How much time after, well, let me phrase it this way. When you moved from Gleason, did the whole entire family move, or had other of the children already departed?
At that point, the children had, a lot of them had already married and moved to different places.
What about Mark?
He was still at home. When we moved, he was the only one left at home.
All right. How much time after that before there was a change in Mark's life where he went a different direction and came to Arizona?
He joined the military in there, and we highly discouraged him joining the military. He decided to do that, and then I'd have to look at the records, probably 2018, 2019.
And the effort to persuade him not to join the military was religious-based?
Yes,
I know that you have another son that was a law enforcement officer. Is that also true?
that is correct.
Is that okay from your perspective?
No.
So once in the Air Force, did you embrace Mark's decision?
It's like this. Everyone has to make their own way in life. He'd made the decision. He had to fulfill his obligation. At that point, we no longer discussed it in that regard because he was there. He'd already signed the papers. He had to be there for the 4 years.
I want to talk a little bit about an aspect of Mark's personality or character, if I could. I assume that nobody knows him any better than you do or your family does. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
So over the years, certainly you've had an opportunity to observe and appreciate what he's like. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Right. Would you tell us, sir, whether you have an opinion or whether Mark has a reputation for being a peaceful, nonviolent person?
Yes, sir. He is nonviolent. I mean, that was the expectation from very little. It's the expectation of the school. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, he was never involved in any physical altercation at school. Once he was...
I'm going to object beyond the scope of character. Thank you.
Sustained.
So let's move on. So in your presence, did he ever exhibit any indication of violent behavior?
No, sir.
any indication of aggressive behavior toward others physically?
No, sir.
We've had testimony that Mark received from you sometime associated with maybe the move, a .22 rifle that you had.
Correct.
Tell us about that rifle.
I bought it in the same year Mark was born, 1990. And basically, I quit farming due to a farm accident where I got crushed between a bale and the tractor. I ended up, we had to, needless to say, discard a lot of things, and I gave Mark that rifle.
Why'd you have the rifle?
I bought it, well, basically, we always have pests on farms to shoot rats and birds after my feed. So that's, we had that on there.
You have another son, Sam,
Correct.
and we've had Sam testify in front of us. Sam's road through the church similar to Mark's,
Correct.
never baptized,
Correct.
but raised in the same faith.
Correct.
Was Mark close to his siblings?
He was, especially his sisters and Sam.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
The way this works, you may get questions from the prosecutor or the court or the jury. Thank you.
Mr. Barker.
Good morning. You believe nobody knows Mark better than you?
Me and his family.
All right. It's fair to say, though, that you, at the time of these events, did not have a daily or even a weekly relationship with Mark, right?
I would talk to him probably weekly or every other weekly.
You said that there was no indication of violent behavior. You believe him to be nonviolent. You agree, sir, that there's a first time for everything?
That is correct.
If I heard you correctly, you said Mark was born in 1990. Is that correct?
No, he was born in 99.
All right, so maybe I just misheard that. The defendant, Mark, he doesn't have a converted heart. What is a converted heart?
What the scripture says is you've turned from darkness to light. What it says is you've decided to follow the Lord with your entire heart and what the tenets of the scripture would call for.
Okay. So he had not yet turned from darkness to light.
Correct.
Are you familiar with the Lamp and Light community in that church, in that area?
Yes.
Okay. That's a conservative Mennonite branch?
It would be very similar to our church.
Similar dress, similar views on technology and peacefulness, all that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you and your family left the church in Gleason, and it wasn't on good terms, was it?
There were some issues. Basically, we left because they were expecting me, basically take an economic loss of over $80,000 and get rid of my herd immediately. I sold them the following spring, and we had left to move to another community.
I didn't catch the last part. And left what?
We left to move to another community.
Okay. Because of that, what would you call it? A rift? A grudge?
No, not a grudge. What I would call it is they were asking things of me that were not economically sound, and I did not feel at that time was 6 months made much difference, but that's not the way they saw it. Couldn't afford a $50,000 or $80,000 loss.
Yeah. And that was, what time frame were we talking about?
2015, maybe?
And when did Mark leave the community to go to the Air Force?
You'd have to check the records, but I believe it was around 2019, but I can't say for exactly sure.
Okay. About 3 years later, roughly.
Roughly.
Did you know that the defendant had, did you know that Mark had an issue being an outsider in that community?
Because we were not born in the Mennonite community, there was some rough spots. simply because we didn't always see things eye to eye.
Were you aware the defendant referred to the church and members of it as a cult?
Not to my knowledge.
Why would the defendant have bitterness toward you?
He never expressed it, never has.
Has your wife ever told you that?
No,
Why would she send a text message to him saying that?
I don't know.
Have a moment, Judge. That's all I have.
Mr. Griffin?
I have no further questions.
All right. Do any of the witnesses have a question for this witness? Okay, apparently we do. Counsel, will you approach, please? Did you know a family from the Gleason Church that attended the Farmington, New Mexico church prior to coming to Gleason?
No.
All right. Any other questions for this witness before I turn him back over to counsel for follow-up? From the jury again. Any other questions from the jury for this witness? All right, apparently not. Mr. Griffin?
Can we approach this from all?
I'm sorry?
Can we approach from
Oh, yes, you can. Mr. Griffin, may this witness be excused and step down. All right, you're excused, you may step down. And then, counsel, will you approach? All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to break a little early for lunch. And I'm going to ask if we could vary your return time since I'm going to let you go early. And if any one person can't do it, just raise your hand because if I'm talking about varying the schedule. But since we're going to go ahead and break early for lunch right now, well, we're not going to break early for lunch. Counsel and I need to continue to do some work on the case, but I don't want you just sitting around. I assume you'd rather, instead of waiting here, you could, enjoy the fresh air, or maybe you've got some things you could maybe do since we've dominated your time these last few weeks. So that's why I'm gonna go ahead and recess. Because I'm gonna recess now, is there any one person that couldn't be back by 1? Okay. So would you all be okay with coming back at 1 so we can try to get you back into the courtroom and with continuing the trial? Okay, great. Thank you so much for your cooperation. I sure appreciate it. All right, remember the admonition. Do not talk to anyone about the case. Do not let anyone talk to you about it. Keep an open mind. And please do not form any opinions about the case. All right, so please be back in the jury room at 1 o'clock. We'll call for you as soon as we're ready. Thank you so much. We stand in recess. Please be seated. All right, counsel, anything further before we go ahead and recess? What I am thinking is, yes.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
In addition to what I've already indicated, I would also tell the court that my decision and my request was also based after consultation with the State Bar Ethics Council.
Thank you. Counsel, could you be back? I would ask you to be back so we'll just see where we're at with the particular issue that we're all looking into, or that the court's looking into, that's what I'll say. So could you be back at 10 minutes to 12? And we'll see where we're at with what we've discussed on the record, but during a sidebar. About 11:50. We'll see where we're at. Can we do that? Okay, thank you. We stand in recess.